All yours. Okay, morning all. If you could follow the usual process, please. We'll promote you from an attendee to a panellist if you wish to ask a question. And as always, the full recording of the press conference will be circulated later this morning. If we could kick off, please, with Rob Jones from Sky Sports, please. Rob.
Morning, Dean.
Morning, Rob. You okay?
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah, not bad, thank you.
How are we looking?
Some picture behind you.
It's a coffee shop, so it's. I think there might be cherries, but anyway, we'll crack on. I'm glad you like it. How are we looking case-wise, COVID?
We've had some fresh cases, but we've got others coming back from previous cases as well. So I think pretty similar to a lot of other clubs at the moment.
So how many would you think would miss Boxing Day with isolation and COVID?
Well, I'm not sure yet because we have to have a PCR within 48 hours of the game. And, that's our last pointer really to find out who's going to be missing and who's going to be available. So we'll train today and train tomorrow morning and see what numbers we've got.
I know that coaches and managers as well had conversations with the Premier League yesterday. What were the main points that came from those conversations?
I think nobody left really satisfied or happy. Certainly with the festive schedule that's coming on. There's 2 games that's already been lost due to the current situation. We all know that there's a tradition with the festive scheduling. It's difficult normally, but it's not impossible at the moment to ask players to play twice in 48 hours. And I, at the moment, don't know how we're going to do it. We've got a lot of players who are coming back, some from COVID cases, some from injuries. We're having to push rehab forward and people are breaking down in rehab because of that. And it's asking massive questions of everybody's squads at the moment. And it's lunacy that we're having to play 2 games in 48 hours. And, there's got to be a question about the integrity of the competition when teams are playing weakened teams against other teams, and it's affecting league positions.
And that was, you've sort of touched on a couple of my questions, but firstly, when you talk about rehab, I mean, what are the conversations at the moment? Is it a case that the medical staff will come to you and say, look, I don't think X player is ready, and you've almost got no choice but to chuck them in?
Yeah, well, we pretty much had it the other day against Aston Villa, and I blame myself really for not pushing to get the game called off because we shouldn't have played. I suppose because we were so buoyant after the performance against Manchester United a few days earlier. But I had four players pull out on the day of the game. I've got 3 players on the bench who I couldn't put on, and we ended up making a substitution of a guy who hasn't played for 22 months after 43 minutes. He wasn't due to probably make a first team start until the FA Cup game on the 9th of January. But that's where we were. And, it was bordering on negligent from myself if he'd have got injured, and I'd have been felt very, very guilty if he had done. Thankfully, Sam Byron got through the game. But I think we're in a dangerous situation now where we are risking the health and welfare of the players.
Pep Guardiola mentioned the word strike yesterday, but can you ever see a point where as a group of playing staff and coaching staff, you have to say, look, we can't do this anymore? Or have you already said that?
No, I mean, we went into a meeting yesterday where the decisions had already been made. So I think we'd already missed the boat in terms of decision making. For me, they decided that the season would continue as was. And, we've got a full fixtures now. 3, us personally, 2 games in 48 hours, which is going to be really tough to do. We have to cope as best we can, and what we have to do is report back to the Premier League with what players we've got available for both games.
You mentioned the integrity of the competition there. Just to throw it back to when you were with Villa and it was Project Restart, it was the same level playing field for every team, really. I know you had a game in hand, but the point was everyone played in empty stadiums. This is unfair, isn't it, on certain teams, and also can give other teams an advantage if you're playing against a bunch of kids or a bunch of guys who aren't fit.
Yeah, and that's why I understand how tough it is for the Premier League, because they have to do it on a case by case, basis. I just feel that, we've got a difficult schedule coming up. We all know that, but it's nigh impossible to play 2 games in 48 hours with the COVID situation in the world as it is at the moment.
Just to touch on something that you said as well about feeling sort of negligent yourself. How difficult is that? Because you have a lot of compassion as a person to sort of sit there and think, I might be taking a risk with a player's career here.
Yeah, no, we're always balancing risks. We are putting a bit of pressure on our medical staff, and they are rebuffing us at stages. But there's a balance where we have to take due care and attention to the players' needs as well. And pushing them back too early is not fair. We've had a couple of players already break down during rehab at the moment, trying to get them back for this period. So it's getting that balance right, and it's a difficult situation at the moment. And I think I've had more conversations with my head of medical and doctor over the last few weeks than I have in a whole season before.
A final couple from me then. Firstly, it's still, you're only a month into the job or so. It was a tricky task when you walked in. How much more difficult has this made the job of keeping Norwich in the Premier League?
No, I mean, it's the task itself of keeping us in the league is going to be the same as when I first came into the role. As I say, I can take the Aston Villa responsibility away from the players, because we had a player playing 90 minutes with a temperature of 38.4 degrees, which is not right. But the games that we've played before that have been really good. Our performance levels have been up there, and what we have to make sure is we get a fit and healthy squad who can go and compete. And if we do, I believe that we can stay up.
And just a question about the football, amazingly for you, just before I finish. You play Arsenal. You had a bit of success with them as Aston Villa manager. Can you take anything from those wins with a previous club into how you approach this one?
No, because it's a different set of players that obviously I've got at Norwich. Arsenal are the same, but I'm really pleased for Mikel Arteta and how he's turned the season around. And I said before Aston Villa played them early in the season, there was a lot of talk about the start they'd had, and in amongst the first couple of games was the European champions and the current Premier League champions who they had to play. So sometimes results have to be taken in context, and I'm really pleased that they've turned it around. But we're coming up against an animal at the moment that's playing really well, and we have to make sure we're at our best.
Thank you, Dean. Merry Christmas to you and the family.
And you. Thanks, Rob.
Cheers.
Thanks, Rob. Paul from PLP, please.
Thank you very much. Dean, with Mikel Arteta and the roller coaster all you managers go on with fans calling for your head 1 minute and then saying you're the best thing ever the next. When you watch his team now, can you see his ideas very clearly when you watch Arsenal with your manager's eyes?
Yeah, I think you can. I think you could see that at the start of the season. Even though they were losing games at the first 3, I think they lost. But you can also see what they were trying to do at that time. Sometimes you come up against better teams. Sometimes you've got players that aren't in good form at that time. Now they've got what the big word and the buzzword in football is momentum. Momentum can take you an awful long way, and they've certainly got that. And they've got a clear identity of how Mikel wants them to play.
And you mentioned your previous with Aston Villa against Arsenal isn't of any use. What about that performance against Manchester United? If you replicate that, will you be okay? Do you need to lift it to yet another level still?
No, for me, that's a level and a standard that will hold us in good stead. If we can reach them levels, then we'll win football games, that's for sure, at this level. It was a really good performance that deserved more. We've been working on in the forward parts of the pitch at the moment, because that's where we're struggling to score goals. We're certainly creating chances, but we need to certainly put the ball in the back of the net now.
And you mentioned how difficult, impossible it is when you have 4 players drop out on the day of a game. What about day to day at training? How difficult is it preparing a training session, even when you're not quite sure who you're going to have with you that day?
I think as coaches, I think we've learned to become adaptable, certainly through this period of COVID. But any other coach who's been with a youth team or a reserve team before will know that sometimes you get players taken away from you by the first team group, and you have to adapt very quickly. So, thankfully I've served my apprenticeship, and Craig Shakespeare has as well. So we're quite adept at dealing with that now.
We heard from Southampton yesterday. They've gone back to players changing in their cars before and after training sessions. They're not eating together. They're taking packed lunches away. Have you guys implemented those sorts of rules or anything similar?
Yeah, well, we're having to follow all the protocols that are set out by the Premier League now, and it's pretty much gone back to Project Restart, where we were then, and we're following all them guidelines to make sure that everybody is kept, healthy, so to speak, and away from COVID. And
just finally, I know you can't mention who's suffering with COVID at the moment, but what about injuries? Have you got any news on who might be out at the weekend or who's coming back from injury?
Yeah, unfortunately, Matthias Norman was hoping to get back, but he's had a setback and he's ended up having some surgery now to release the adductors and help his pelvic injury. So he's going to be out for the foreseeable future. Milot Rashica, these games will come too soon for him. We're hopeful that he'll be back for the Leicester game.
Oh, well, thanks ever so much, Dean, and very, very best of luck, mate.
Thank you. Cheers, Paul.
Cheers.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, we've got to Ian Abrahams, please, from Top Sport.
Hi, Dean.
Hi, Moose. You okay?
Very well. Happy Christmas.
And to you, mate.
I'm getting a distinct impression that if this isn't the last season of it, we're very close to the end of seeing festive football. I mean, we've seen managers in the past upset about having to play so many games just because of injuries. But if you add COVID on top, am I right on that? That at the end of the season, managers are going to get together and say, right, we're not doing this again.
I don't think it will. I actually believe that it will change anyway, with the World Cup being in November next year, that there's not going to be, a Boxing Day game and then one within 48 hours. It's always been difficult. It's always been a tradition, one that I've enjoyed as a player, as a manager as well. But it's always been difficult. Now it's nigh on impossible with COVID situations, for sure. Do I want us to lose that tradition? No, probably not. But at the moment, it is too difficult to do this season, I believe.
I mean, listen, there are other traditions, and they've all gone. The FA Cup third round being 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon, the draw being, on a Monday lunchtime, and the final itself being 3 o'clock. You talk about everyone mentions tradition, but I just get the impression that we are heading towards a situation whereby the festive football will be gone. There might even be a winter break. Is that what? No,
I just feel that if we want to keep the integrity of the competition, and every manager wants to try and play their best team in every game. We're all the same. We all want to win games, but 48 hours turnaround now is too short. Yes, these players are elite athletes now, but their bodies need to recover as well. We want to see spectacles. That's what we're all after. And, I think the 48-hour turnaround is too short. So, we all deal with 3-week matches. That can continue, but there's got to be certainly more than 48-hour turnaround.
In terms of substitutes, when Project Restart happened, there were 5, and Premier League or England was any country, or one of any countries, to go back to 3. Do you think that would help if you had 5 subs? Although, to be fair, you'd have to have more players in your squad, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd have to have more players in your squad. With the current COVID situation, being allowed to put more subs on the pitch at the moment would certainly help player welfare, but it's not going to help the clubs who've only got 13 plus 1 goalkeeper available. You can still only make the 3 subs with that ruling in. So I think that's probably another one where the ship's already sailed, because I think it's been voted up on 3 times already.
What's your main concern about player welfare? The physical side or the mental side, or both?
Both. Always both. My biggest worry is I feel because we've got dwindling numbers, whether it's be injuries or illness or COVID, is that you're trying to rush back people a little bit too quickly from their rehabilitation, and we've had a couple that have broke down already. So that's always a worry for us.
You mentioned there that your players are now doing protocols that were pretty much during the beginning of Project Restart. Do you see us going back almost completely to no fans in stadiums, maybe even football stopping for a bit?
Well, I hope not, and I don't think the way probably the government have dealt with the COVID situation that it's likely to go back to no supporters. The fact that they pushed to have the double vaccination, now they're pushing to have the boosters. I'm no politician, but it looked like we were going for more herd immunity, than other countries. And I feel that to take the supporters away would be wrong, especially when we've been pushing out the double vaccines and the boosters.
I thought managers these days, Dean, were part managers, i.e. you pick a striker and number 10, and actually a press conference part politician. You disappointed me there. Well,
Unfortunately, I don't get the cheese and wine.
Oh, very good. Listen, on the game, you are facing a team that are in form, but who haven't had a break at all. I mean, for one reason or another, Arsenal will be able to keep going.
Yeah, they have. They've kept going, and they've pretty much kept a normal first team, if you can call it normal, where they haven't had to make many changes. I think all teams that are in good moments, you keep a consistent first 11. We've seen West Ham do it over the last 12 months, so to speak. I had it with Aston Villa for the first 6 months of last season. And when you can do that, you can build up some momentum. And certainly Arsenal have done that with the players they've had at the helm, and they've turned around that start of the season. And a real tough game for us.
Yeah, as you'll know from your son being in America, the big mo is all important, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah,
as they call it over there. Listen, one last thing. What's your Christmas, New Year wish? Apart from those games.
Lots of points. Lots of points. As many points as we can.
Well, Prime Minister Smith, thank you very much for speaking to me.
Yeah, have a good one, mate.
And you take care.
Cheers, Ian. Okay, if we could go to Jim, please, from the Press Association.
Dean, morning.
Morning, Jim.
Happy Christmas to you, sir. Just check on Ozan Kabak. Any update? How is he?
Yeah, no, he's available for selection. He was one of them players who shouldn't have been playing against Aston Villa. He suffered glandular fever, came back from that, and then he's played his first full game against Manchester United in 9 months, something. 2 months, I think it was, and then we're having to force him back out there to play against Aston Villa, and he broke down just before half time. But he's back now. He's back to fitness. But to ask him to play 2 games in 3 days again is going to be too much.
So, are you expecting at this moment in time the Boxing Day game to go ahead, and also the Crystal Palace match to go ahead?
Yeah, at this moment in time, I'm expecting them to go ahead. I believe the stakeholders of the Premier League met on Monday, and the agreement was to carry on the season. And as long as you've got 13 plus 1 fit players, then the games goes ahead.
So if Grant was to come to you and say, look, we've spoken to the dressing room, and the feeling is we don't want to play anymore, effectively calling for a strike, would that be something that you would back?
No, I don't think you can. Listen, we have to follow the guidelines of the league that we're in. The Premier League have given their guidelines on what needs to be done to get a game postponed, and the West Ham game was too much for us, and that got postponed by the Premier League after we submitted a request and the injuries and the illnesses that we had. So that's the way forward, and that's the way we'll continue.
When you look at some of the other countries, Germany they have a shutdown over Christmas now. Are we right to carry on to try to go on with this tradition and ask the guys to play them? And you said it's lunacy to do it, but people say, well, it's been in place for a year and a day, and we should just carry on going.
Yeah, I think it's always been difficult. It's always been enjoyable as well at the same time. but it's not impossible with the COVID situation in the country at the moment and across the world. That's why I feel it's a little bit of lunacy at the moment. We've been looking at a winter break. I think we're meant to have one in January, which I don't know that the replayed fixtures might end up being played then. We've also got an AFCON tournament as well that's in January, so players are going to lose some teams are going to lose some players in that competition as well. So we're at a heavily congested fixture schedule, not just in our country, across the world, catching up with World Cup games or World Cup qualifiers and a World Cup, looming in November as well. So we're fully aware that it's really congested, but we just need a little bit of help over this period.
Just finally on the league situation, even though there's people always say, well, whoever's bottom at Christmas, that's it. There's no, you're not going to pull off the great escape. But even when you take into account the games in hand and stuff, it is so congested down at the bottom. We saw what happened to Leeds, and so it's not like anyone is really being cast adrift at the moment.
No, it's not, and I think you've got three outstanding teams at the moment at the top in Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea, who seem to be the ones who are beating or not getting beat at all. And the others at the bottom can, certainly ourselves can just look above and see that there's beatable teams. And and I think our performance at against Manchester United proved to us that we can be a match against anyone. That's
great, Dean. Thanks very much. Good luck. Hope you get some downtime over Christmas. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Jim.
Not likely, though.
Dave Freezer, please, from EDP.
Morning, Dean.
Morning, Dave. You okay?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. I'm going to go searching for some good news in amongst everything you've already said.
Yeah.
Let's start with Grant Hanley. How's he looking with his shoulder?
Yeah, I think he went to see the specialist yesterday. He doesn't need any surgery, which is really good. But obviously, certainly for the next couple of weeks, he won't be available.
Okay. Given what you said about Ozan Kabak there, probably not been able to manage 2 in 3. How's Andrew Omobamidele looking? Could he potentially be involved?
No, again, Andrew, unfortunately, he'll probably be out for another 10 days, I think, with the back stress injury.
Okay. The club put out a training video earlier in the week. Josh Sargent and Christos Jolis were both in that. So hopefully some good news there. We've got a couple of players at least back. Yeah,
we've got some players who've obviously had illnesses who are back on the training ground. Billy Gilmore being one of them as well, who was, the player who was playing with the temperature against Villa. There's a lot of players who've had illnesses and symptoms, but actually tested negative. So there's been a bit of a softly approach during training just to make sure we get them back to their full recovery and ready for the game on Boxing Day.
How's the atmosphere been among the players who have been fit? Obviously, it's awkward at the moment having to fit in with all the protocols, but I guess you really need them to unite and pull together so tight and use this in sort of to battle against adversity.
Yeah, I think the atmosphere, a couple of days after the Aston Villa game was a little bit low because, we didn't play well and we felt would, thrown points away with 2 home games, performed really well against Manchester United and should have got something out of it, and then didn't perform so well against Aston Villa. But as I said, on reflection and in hindsight, I can take responsibility for that because, we never really were going at Aston Villa at full tilt with the players that, we would have liked to have been going at full tilt. So, but the Manchester United game, we all came out of that really buoyant, and I've spoke to the players since about that game, and accepting responsibility for Villa. And the last 3 days, I think there's been a lift in the camp again. We've got some players back from illness, some players back on the training ground, so that has certainly lifted the mood. Okay,
just 2 other players, then I think we've got through the whole list. Lys Malou and Rupp, they were missing. Do we know where we are with them yet?
Yeah, Lys Malou is back training with us now after illness. Ruppy's had illness, but also an injury as well. So we'll be having a look at him today to see how he comes through.
Okay, lovely job. Right, well, moving that on a bit then, we had the under-23s lads who came onto the bench in Rowe, Tompkinson and Dixon Peters. The under-23s lads have been scoring a lot of goals, haven't they? Have you been impressed by what you've seen from the young lads who have been able to sort of come in, and maybe there could be chances there for them?
Yeah, they've done well in the 23s games that I've been watching. You know, it would be remiss of me to throw them in at the moment. I think you know, they've only trained with the first team for a week or two. You know, but if needs must, you know, if you're ready, you're ready. And if they're the next cab off the rank, then they'll be in. You know, but we had Tommy Rowe on the bench against Villa, and he played 90 minutes the night before, which just showed you the situation we was in at that time.
Okay. One other one, I don't know whether you've got an update to hand, but I see the club have put out that there's an interview with Dan Barden in the programme at the weekend about his recovery from his testicular cancer diagnosis. Is there anything you can sort of give us an update on that front?
No, I've seen that. I know there's an article in the programme for him. You know, I think Neil Adams is in constant contact with him, as is Ed Wootton, our goalkeeping coach as well. And obviously he's part of the Norwich City family, and we're wishing him a speedy recovery. I believe he was going to come to the game with his family, but during the current climate, obviously, too much of a risk. But we're all behind him and wishing him a speedy recovery.
Okay, well, we'll watch out for the news in the programme then. And just finally, on Arsenal, they've had this situation with Aubameyang in the background, and the way that Mikel has dealt with that sort of shows that he's very much in control at that club now, and that he's really got a strong grasp of it. Have you been sort of impressed by the leadership or maybe the bravery as a head coach to take such a big decision to sort of show the rest of the squad that he's in charge?
Well, I don't know the ins and outs of what's happened there, and I don't really want to, because it's not a club that I'm involved in. But our roles as head coaches or managers are to show good leadership and make good decisions. And, you know, you can only look at their performances, and their performances have shown that, you know, he's been making very good decisions at the moment.
Okay. Thanks very much for your time, Dean. Merry Christmas.
Cheers. And you. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, John West, please. John.
Hi, Dean.
Hey, John, you okay?
Yeah, not bad. You okay?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Well, given what you've said about all this, and especially about the Villa game, how close are you right now to 13 players? And given what you said about Villa, will you be calling it off or asking to call it off as soon as possible?
No, I mean, if we go out on the training pitch today, as expected, and I would expect 16 or 17 outfield players training today, then, you know, the game goes ahead. So, you know, I'm not looking to call off any game unless, you know, we have a situation where it needs to be. I do believe that playing 2 games in 48 hours is going to be very hard for us, because we've not got players robust enough to do that at the moment because of, you know, previous injuries and coming back from injuries. So at this moment in time, I'm looking forward to the Arsenal game, and the players will be as well. You
mentioned Sam Byram, who shouldn't have been there. Is he still having to be part of the squad, or have you had him just stand?
Yeah, no, he's part of the squad. He's fortunately for us, we've took a bit of a risk with him, but he's come through it. You know, normally we wouldn't have risked a player who's had that long time, who's had that amount of time out, but needs must. And, you know, he's come through it, and we've kept him part of the conversation all the way through it, and he's been happy to do so. You know, so he's part of the squad at the moment.
I suppose he's so glad to be back that it's almost like a new signing for yourself, and new lease of life for him.
Yeah, it certainly is, because he's a top player, and you know, a really good lad as well. You know, and just shows his adaptability at coming on in midfield against Villa as well.
Yeah, I mentioned that the team at bottom is, I think, the only 3 times at Christmas the team at the bottom has survived. One of them went on to win the Premier League the following year, so had no pressure there. But obviously, there's nothing that 2 wins couldn't solve for any of the teams at the bottom, is there, right now?
Well, I think Craig Shakespeare was involved in the Leicester City team, did that as well. So maybe we've got a good omen on our side.
That's good, yeah. Brilliant. Thanks so much, and good luck.
Cheers. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Okay, John T.
Hi, Dean. Firstly, from me, you've been at the club 6 games now. Obviously, the COVID situation makes it really, I'm sure, really difficult to implement your style. But how do you think those 6 games have gone compared to where you want the team to be?
For the first 5 games, I was really pleased. I thought the application of the players, the attitude of the players, and and some of the football we've played has been really good. There's been spells where it hasn't been so good. First half against Southampton, I thought, their levels were really high, but second half we managed to get the win. Played really well against Wolves. Lacked a little bit of quality on the ball at Newcastle. But pleased with Tottenham away and Manchester United home in terms of, how we actually played and the chances we've created in both them games. The only disappointment has been Aston Villa. But as I said, I'll take responsibility for that one.
You mentioned Tottenham and Man United there. The fact you can put on performances you're pleased with, does that give you a lot of confidence going into the second half of the season?
Yeah, it certainly does, because we've had big chances in both them games. At Tottenham at 0-0 and 1-0 down, where the outcome could be changed if we take them chances, and I think we will if we keep creating the quality chances. Manchester United as well, they get a soft penalty that's won them the game, but we should have been taking our chances that we had and certainly making better of the moments we had as well.
It's already been mentioned, bottom at Christmas, only 3 teams have stayed up from there. I'm guessing you wouldn't have taken this job if you didn't fancy your chances.
No, exactly. And as I've said earlier, one of them teams was Leicester City, and my assistant Craig Shakespeare was there then. I've managed to get Villa out of a relegation dogfight before as well. So we both understand the situation that we're in, and we're both willing to fight all the way. And we believe we've got enough in the dressing room if we get that healthy squad back to go and win football games.
And I'm guessing from a player's perspective, when they've seen that you've done it and Craig's done it, they can take a lot of inspiration from that.
Yeah, they can. And we're taking inspiration from, the players as well, with the performances that they've put in this since we've been here. So, as I say, the biggest thing for me is turning them chances into goals. If we do that, we'll win games.
Bro, cheers, Dean. Have a great Christmas.
And you. Thanks, John T.
Thanks, John T. Michael, and then we'll end with Rob Butler, please. Michael first.
Cheers, Dan. Morning, Dean. Happy Christmas.
Hey, Michael. Yeah, and you, mate.
Just one from me. I mean, obviously, it's an incredibly tough situation at the moment. You've still got some experienced heads who are available. I guess you guys as coaches have to really look for them to, I don't know, step up, I suppose, raise their level, increase their influence, and grab hold of the group, I suppose. It's almost a siege mentality in a way, isn't it? So you're kind of looking at those guys to lead more than ever.
Yeah, we are, and I don't think it'll be any different to any other club at the moment as well. There might be a couple of clubs that have got no cases, but I'm sure by the time Omicron has come and gone, that all clubs will have had some cases. But we're always looking to lean on our more experienced players and help them to give the guidance throughout the group. What's needed in the next few games, because it's a busy schedule now, and it's a really important one for us to pick up points.
And it'll be just as much a case on the pitch, I suppose, when you're playing in those games, and there are maybe some, more inexperienced players in around them.
Yeah, and the only way you go and get experience is by playing football games, and we've got a couple of young loanies who are in and amongst us from big clubs, big top 6 clubs as well, and they'll have some experiences that they've had from their clubs that they've been at, Manchester United and Chelsea, that they can certainly instill in the dressing room, as well as the more experienced players as well.
Brilliant, Dean. Thank you so much. Loads of luck.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. And finally, Rob.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, Dean.
Hi, Rob.
Good to talk to you as always. Happy Christmas and all that business. Just starting on what you said earlier about risking health and welfare, you feel your players are. That's obviously quite strong, but lots of managers are echoing that as well.
Yeah, I think when you've got the England captain coming out and speaking and saying that nobody's looking at the players' welfare and health at the moment, then I think that should make us all sit up and take notice. He's not a spokesman for all players, but there's plenty of England players who he speaks to regular. He speaks to obviously all the Liverpool players, and I know for a fact that our captain had spoken to him as well. So it certainly seems to be a message that the players want to get out there at the moment, and it's certainly something that we have to sit up and take notice about.
So obviously Grant Hanley's had that conversation. What's the mood like amongst the players on that? I guess it's a little bit of a worrying time, a little bit nervy around the training ground.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I believe the data that we've got from Omicron is that young men, the ages of the players that we've got aren't going to get such a serious illness than other variants of the disease. But it's still worrying when, they're living obviously with parents or people who, might have needs that need them to make sure they don't contract the virus. So, we have to be careful in this world at the moment.
Yeah, we were at hospital recently, filming some of the players getting their jabs and what have you, and obviously we spoke to Johnny Martin as well, who said that the club, right from the top, including Zoe and Stuart, everyone's pushing for the players to get the vaccination if they can.
Yeah, and I think we're up to over 90%. I think at the football club, which is a really good number. I've said before, I would urge everybody to get double vaccinated and also get their boosted as well. I'm fully vaxxed and boosted as well. And it's something that the government get all the numbers, they get all the data from the top scientists. So we certainly have to follow that train of thought.
Yeah, and just I think you said it was Billy Gilmore who had the temperature in the high 30s against Villa. I mean, it says a lot about him that he said to you, Gaffer, I'll go out there and play, and still had a pretty good game, under the circumstances, bearing in mind he was running about with that temperature.
Yeah, it does. And fortunately, we've got a really good medical staff here who are keeping tabs on him. And if there was any sign of any danger, we would have got him off the pitch. But it's not ideal. It's not an ideal world at the moment, and we know that. But certainly, it's good to have players wanting to give their all on the football pitch for us.
Just talking about sort of players' attitude, what have you? You mentioned Sam Byram earlier on. I mean, incredible. He's had to come in and do the business, and you're saying that he's still capable of starting a game, even after all he's been through, he can still come in and do a job for you. I mean, what an attitude that the lad's got.
Yeah, he has. He's been out for an awful long time, and he's missed the football. So he's urgent to get back as quickly as possible. But we have to, manage him with caution because we don't want him going backwards at any stage now.
And just on the Arsenal game, obviously, Mikel Arteta said some nice things about Norwich, and he's obviously been watching you. And we all know what happened in the Man United game. It was a defeat, but a good performance from Norwich. And Arsenal stuck with him. There was a lot of pressure on him from perhaps mainly the fans. They stuck with him. They're now fourth in the league, so he's kind of paying that back.
Yeah, I think continuity at any football club is something that you all need, because you need to build a culture at a football club. You need to get your style of play into that football club, and Mikel's been allowed to do that, which is good. Even through the tough times, it's always good when you've got that backing, and you come through at the other side, and it's good to see them doing so well. Hopefully not on Boxing Day, and hopefully we can get the 3 points. Yeah,
and just finally, obviously, COVID issues aside, that the ground's going to be as full as possible. People will have their vaccine passports, etc. The club have put out the information about that. And against perhaps the bigger teams, Norwich, can push on a little bit. We saw what they could do against Manchester United. So it's one for the fans and the players to get their teeth into. And no doubt, again, it'll be a good atmosphere for your boys at Carrow Road.
Yeah, it certainly will. And we need to make it a really good atmosphere, and make it as tough as possible for Arsenal. And, the players will be ready, that's for sure.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dean. Happy Christmas. Yeah. Cheers.
Thanks, Rob. And you.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everyone. We'll leave it there and get the recording of the press conference sent around the group later on. But we wish you all a Merry Christmas. Thanks, everyone.